Legend of Total War here, and today we're doing a Raiding You Doomstack video covering a Disciples of Hashut Bale Taurus Doomstack, where we've got 19 Bale Tauruses, a Sorcerer Prophet of Fire, and the Hellforge upgrades: Passive Ability Frenzy, Barrier Hit Points plus 800, Passive Ability Strength from Flesh, which provides regeneration when in melee, good amount of regeneration, Armor plus 25, and Murderous Charge. So it's pretty simple army to use here, nothing too special about it. We're going up against the High Elves, the Order of Lawmasters, where they've got about a little bit more than 2 full stacks of medium to high quality units. There are some units in here that have a fair bit of fire resistance. The Arcane Phoenix has 40% fire resistance and 20% physical resistance, which that's the majority of what we're doing. So 60% resistance to our attacks. But of course, when we're using Kindle Flame, we can drop that down by 20%. Also, Attuned to Magic will give them extra ward save, so that's something to keep in mind. And then, of course, Techless is going to have ridiculous amounts of ward save and fire resistance there. Anyway, let's jump in here and see how it performs. That's pretty good auto resolve, because it is on very hard battle difficulty. But let's see if we can do better. So I think with a Bale Taurus Doomstack, there's actually a lot of things to cover. It may seem like a really sort of simple Doomstack. The first thing that comes to mind is I really don't think you should put 19 of them in an army with a Flying Lord, because then your entire army is flying. And while it shouldn't be a problem in the vast majority of your battles, just a good rule of thumb is that 20 units is going to be more or less the same strength as 19 units. So putting in an Infernal Castellan into this army and giving him the Stalk ability, which is in his bottom line of his mutually exclusive line, in the middle, which I'll show you later. That'll give him Stalk, so you can just put him in the corner somewhere, and that way you can fly around all you like, and you don't have to feel like you need to engage into melee. Whereas in this case here, we cannot sit around waiting for this force, because normally, given the strength difference of our armies here, I think that the enemy forces is not particularly strong, so I would normally wait for them. But if I wait for them, we'll lose the battle, because we'll run out of leadership if we don't land. Because the thing is, the way that this leadership penalty works is that it doesn't, if we land like this and just sit here, we'll still take leadership penalties. And I'll do that and I'll show you. Another thing is that if you fight in the air, you'll still take leadership penalties. So in order to prevent yourself from taking leadership penalties, you have to fight on the ground. So it can be a little bit annoying there. So if we have a look here, we've landed. Flying units alone cannot hold the ground. And you can see here we are starting to take leadership penalties. So next up to test, I'll go and fight in the air, and you'll notice we'll still take leadership penalties. Another thing that you can do is have a reinforcing lord that's on the ground, because your reinforcements, if they're on the ground, will be taken into consideration, and you won't have to remain flying the entire time. Or you can remain flying the entire time. Go up to this coatl, and we'll see here that going into melee with it is... Yeah, we can see here that the leadership penalty is still increasing, so we have to land. Just little bits of information there for you. Okay, and popping this down here. We don't want to be using the damaging spells in this situation here, because with these kind of Doomstacks where we're showcasing how powerful a unit can be... Oh god, I can't click on the damn unit. Oh, come on, man. Doesn't matter. We don't want to get 1,000 kills with the Spellcaster and then just 10 kills each on the Bale Tauruses, so try to avoid using the magic. Otherwise it becomes a wizard Doomstack, and we've seen that 100 times now. So they're barely getting through our barrier, but this is the weaker of the forces, so we're just waiting for those guys to show up. But you can see how quickly those leadership penalties started accumulating. So if you have a look at our resistances of the Bale Taurus, we're at 5% ward save, 10% physical resistance, but that can increase over time just by staying in melee, so you can get 20% physical resistance there. Actually, I think you can go even further than that, because that 10% physical resistance I think he got from the red line there. But I know that there's a landmark that gives you 10% physical resistance for Taurus units, so I don't think he built that. And then you could also have the healing Salva Valea, which can give you another 10% physical resistance. So these guys could potentially have 40% physical resistance. Of course, assuming that they stay in battle for that long. Now, these guys here were no trouble at all. It was really just a case of waiting for Teclis to show up and trying not to rout in the meantime. Oh, no, you can even go in further than that. If you get the Banner of Contempt, the Oath of Contempt, we can get additional 10% physical resistance. So I guess the maximum physical resistance, unless I'm forgetting something, is 50%. Another thing to think about here is which Lord is best to command this kind of Doomstack. Probably would be Zatan the Black, but Zatan the Black boosts every unit in the game. And I kind of feel as though Zatan's best Doomstack, I know we really don't want to be fighting in the air for too long, but let's do a little bit. Got cooldown on him. So yeah, we're going to be taking initiative penalty. So I feel like Zatan's best army is... Oh, I need to land. Is the Bull Centaur Taurox. But you know, if you want to do this with Zatan the Black, that would be the way to make this stronger. You know, with a bit of extra armor and leadership and melee defense, that doesn't go to waste. But I don't disagree with the choice of a Sorcerer Prophet of Fire. I also wouldn't disagree with having a Demon Smith of Hashut. That way we could really strip away more of this fire resistance. Because if we have a look at an Arcane Phoenix, even with Kindle Flame, the fire attacks are still working against us. But the thing is, the Phoenix also does flaming attacks, which we have a lot of fire resistance for. So it's a double-edged sword. We can't do much damage to them, but also they can't do much to us. So if you have a look at Teclis there, yeah, try and click on him. I would have expired now. It's showing the Kindle Flame active. We can see here that Teclis is not doing any damage to us. Can barely get through our barrier. And barrier is affected by your armor and resistances. Flamestorm over here would be absolutely killer. Same thing with like a Doom of Hashut, but we're here to test out the Bale Tauruses. Really important to note. This is not a saving disaster battle, it's a Doomstack rating. How's that Phoenix going? Just can't click on the damn banner. No. Also, there's an item that you can get as a weapon for these guys for regen when in melee. I forget what the sword's called. I think he's got one, but he doesn't have one equipped to this guy. Now, the reason why I'm keeping him in the blob and not flying around is because if we have him isolated from the rest of this army, their flying units will come chasing after him. He is best protected in this big blob like this. And also, by doing that, we can use Stand and Die to boost all of them. So yep, I'm getting that Kindle Flame's good for that fire weakness. So yep, they're shooting at us, but we got loads of missile resistance and physical resistance, so they're just not really doing anything to us. And this is on very hard battle difficulty. Teclis is getting out of that. Did he end up doing any damage? No. Okay, those that have gone back up in the sky, get back down. Is anyone damaged? Nope, not really. But yeah, having a look over here, we can see that the difficulty modifier 8, that means very hard battle difficulty. Okay, starting to take a bit of damage on this guy. Okay, Teclis is almost dead. Let's try to get everyone to focus on him. I can actually click his banner. There we go. Come on, like one hit would get him. Nah, he's gonna slip away. Not even gonna use this one here. Just let the Bale Taurus to sort it out. Another thing that you could do is have this guy on foot, and just, because he doesn't really need to be there, and just have him hidden over here, just constantly casting this on himself just to activate the map-wide effect of Kindle Flame. And there goes Teclis. Cool. Yeah, minimal damage on our guys here. Even letting these guys shoot at us just doesn't do much. See, also another thing with the AI, notice how they're slowly moving forward. This tends to happen a fair bit when you've got a lot of single entities. Eventually, they just send their archers into melee like this. Like, what the hell are they doing? It's so stupid. So yeah, we could very easily... Oh, there we go. I was going to say, we could have made this battle a lot quicker if we had used the damage spells, the Flamestorm and Burning Head, which you would do, normally. You know, you wouldn't drag it out like this in melee. But the whole point of this is to test out the Bale Taurus. We've already seen how powerful Fire Magic is, and the Flames of Hazgul, if we had a Hashut spellcaster. But yeah, if this guy here had that item... that could have been really useful. So we got a decisive victory there, so that's better than what Auto Resolve yielded. Because typically speaking, the Auto Resolver doesn't take regeneration abilities into account. You'll never walk out of an Auto Resolve with more health than you went going into it, whereas if you fought it manually, you can actually recover quite a bit. A couple of guys here took some damage, but we could have just chased them down and recovered. But since I don't need to send so far back, I won't worry about it. So... in terms of starting to actually rate the Doomstack now, very strong. Pretty much top marks for strength. You'd be hard pressed to go up against an enemy that this would lose against. Especially with that many Hellforge upgrades. Now, things to take in mind when people send in Doomstack video submissions to be rated. There's various things that they can do to set up the enemy forces. They can have a situation which is set up here, which is kind of an organic one, where they... this is on Legendary difficulty. It's not unheard of for the AI to have about 2 full stacks on Legendary difficulty. Very rare will you see 4 full stacks sitting around on Legendary difficulty, unless they're an endgame crisis. So that's the next thing that they do. They go up against an endgame crisis as it newly spawns, as all of those armies are all nice to close together. Typical thing that we go and see it with that is like going up against vampire counts, because they tend to blob up in those areas. They're very easy to get to. You know, just go up against 4 armies of vampire counts. But that can get very boring because the vampire count army is lacking in missiles and abilities, and they just zerg at you, and usually it's quite easy to deal with them with your Doomstacks. So those aren't that interesting. And then the third option, this is only something a handful of people do, is that they actually use the console command to spawn in specific armies. But if you're looking for like a test of a Doomstack, then looking for organic situations, things that you are commonly going to encounter on the campaign map, that is more useful. So this kind of encounter here, that is pretty typical of a big battle that basically ends a faction. That's you know, unless you don't see factions ever really organically get to like 50 settlements, not unless you get to like turn 300. So in Warhammer 2, the AI would routinely build like 4 stacks and park them in a settlement, but it doesn't happen so much in Warhammer 3. Again, unless they're an in-game crisis. Okay, so I was going to check over here for the landmark. Yeah, he didn't build it. Physical resistance plus 10 for Taurus units. It just says plus 10. It doesn't say 10%. I wonder if that is actually bugged. I've never actually built it myself because I never get past bloody turn 40 before I get bored. But yeah, it says it's physical resistance for that. And then you've got these kind of buildings here. The goat farms, the pasture building, which at tier 3 will reduce upkeep cost minus 3% for Lamassu, Great Taurus, and Bale Taurus units faction-wide. So that's good. So this is a unit that you can get loads of physical resistance on, make them super strong. All the forge upgrades are really good on them. You know, barrier, frenzy, passive ability, strength from flesh, and extra armor. Murderous charge isn't really needed. All of those are very powerful, so making that a very strong Doomstack. If we have a look at how costly it is to actually build 20 of them, or 19 of them, so it is costing, or actually, I would say that 18 would be ideal, or even 17, right? Because what this army here is missing, I think, is an Infernal Castellan, and I did say we would showcase that. Let's see, let's come over to here, see if he's built. Yeah, there it is. If we get an Infernal Castellan and have a little look, I know unethical trade is bugged. This skill here, Skirmish Tactics, you can get Stalk with that. So you can just hide them in the corner, and that way you could get the extra campaign movement range, which is always good if you want to, catch your enemies, because they're quite skittish, especially if you're rolling around in Doomstacks, they'll try to avoid you. So the best thing you can do is be faster, so they have to move in force march and eventually catch them. So missing out on the physical resistance from the what's it called? the landmark. You're also missing the physical resistance from the banner. Do you have that banner? Oath of Contempt. Yeah, there it is. So if we had that equipped, we could have gotten an additional 10% physical resistance. Also, if we could have... Yeah, there it is, the Life Bane Blade. That could have given him regeneration in the battle so that he wouldn't take in so much damage. He probably would have ended the battle at full strength. Could have also equipped the Brass Cleaver for extra melee attack. Didn't really need to. Our melee attack was high enough. And there it is, the Healing Salve of Valet. Of course, you can only equip this on one character at a time, but this would provide melee defense extra +5 all units in the army, and physical resistance plus 10% all units in the army. So potentially you could get 40%, I think, base physical resistance on all these guys here if you just go around and get all the various things, because those banners, you can get as many of them as you want. Again, unlimited of them. It's just a matter of time, because I'm fairly sure you can only get them through the event, through the Tower of Tsar. And as for the life quenching sword, what's it called? The Life Bane Blade. I'm pretty sure you can get that by merging items. Either that or you get it from what's given from the Tower of Tsar. I don't think you can get it dropped from battles. I've never seen it dropped from battles. I've only ever gotten it from fusing or from the Tower of Tsar. So I'm not 100% sure on that. But overall, so super strong. A little bit on the costly side, but that's mainly in the early stages of the campaign. I imagine that in the later stages of the campaign, where armaments kind of become irrelevant and you just have loads to spend, this becomes a fairly cheap Doomstack in terms of upkeep cost, assuming that you have a lot of passes buildings, which is a very common landmark, so that's not a problem. It's super strong. In the later stages of the campaign, super cheap. And then it's really easy to use. And I think the only thing that this really needs is that Infernal Castellan or another Demonsmith Sorcerer of Hashut, so that we could team up with Fire Magic for Kindle Flame and Ash Storm to reduce the fire resistance in an area. But I don't think that's absolutely essential. So I think 17 Bale Taurus is the way to go. Overall, I really like this Doomstack. It's really easy to use, but I wouldn't recommend rushing for it at the beginning of the stage of the campaign. But if you're at like turn 100 and you're at the point where you're getting loads of armaments, by all means, yeah, build one of these. Because one of the best things about the Bale Taurus as well is that it's got its own unit capacity here. It doesn't share it with another unit, which is what I've said about the artillery, except for the hell cannons. See, I like it when they've just got one one capacity for themselves. They're not sharing capacities. Same thing, sort of thing with the Bull Centaurs. They're all sharing a capacity there. So that's a big advantage to the Bale Taurus. Because another thing as well, there's so many things to talk about with Chaos Dwarfs, is that everything that makes a Bale Taurus unit strong, you could also do with a Great Taurus as well, to sort of spread out your armament costs, because they're boosted by the exact same things. It's just that a Great Taurus isn't quite as strong as a Bale Taurus. That's all there really is to it. But you can see the base cost there, 450. So it's already been reduced quite significantly. But the upkeep cost really is an issue at this point here. Very strong units. Overall, really like this Doomstack. In summary, very strong, easy to use, cost-effective in the later stages of the campaign, not in the early stages. Anyway, that's the end of this one here, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the Bale Taurus Doomstack, whether or not you like it, dislike it, whether you agree with what I've assessed with it. Appreciate you guys. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Later, guys.